Welcome to Oscar Sunday. I'm Austin Johnson.
I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
And today we are going to talk about The China Syndrome from 1979. Received 4 nominations at the 52nd Academy Awards. We've been to this ceremony once before, long time ago, episode 25. This is our first ever Best Picture showdown. Featuring Kramer vs. Kramer and all that jazz, and Norma Rae, Breaking Away, and Apocalypse Now. So pretty damn good year here. The China Syndrome was not up for Best Picture, but it did do some damage as far as nominations go. You got all that jazz with 9, Apocalypse Now with 8, Kramer vs. Kramer with 8, Breaking Away with 5, The China Syndrome, Norma Rae, and The Rose all with 4. It was a pretty cool year. These 70s ceremonies typically deliver as far as quality goes. So with that being said, we do have some kind of like bittersweet news, I guess, that this is the last official Oscar Sunday that we're ever going to do. Pretty random to end it on The China Syndrome. I do love this movie. I chose it because I wanted to show it to Connor, but also just because I wanted to revisit it myself and have a chance to talk about it. I watched it a long time ago, probably 2 years ago, on the Criterion Channel. They did this big Jane Fonda collection, and I watched like China Syndrome the morning after, Clue, just a random collection of her stuff, and I fell in love with her as a performer for sure. And now she's probably my favorite actress from this era, from like the 70s, 80s. I recently, maybe a few months ago, watched 9 to 5. She's fucking excellent in that. We did Coming Home on this show not that long ago. She's excellent in that. I've never been disappointed by her, and she's great in The China Syndrome. So is Jack Lemmon. So is Michael Douglas. This is a solid movie. I think I like it more than you do, but I am curious to hear your thoughts. On this. You bought it. You have it on Blu-ray, so it's not available to stream anywhere. But you bought it. You let me borrow it, and here we are talking about The China Syndrome.
Yeah, I just stumbled upon this at a half price books for like $6, and I knew we were doing it on the show, so I picked it up, and I'm glad I did that. Uh, Even though we are, saying goodbye to this particular podcast, we are, I'm going to keep doing that. The China Syndrome, I think I wanted it to be a little bit more of a disaster film. I was hoping for something more in line with like the Towering Inferno.
Yeah.
Uh, but that's again just me with like you know larger than life expectations with certain films. That's a problem I have, and I always find that on like a second or third watch, if I've managed those expectations and I know what the film is, I always have a much better experience. And I didn't hate it. For me a solid 7. The performances are great. It's a good story, and I love the whole 70s paranoia subgenre we keep stumbling into on this show.
Yes.
Those are great. I love that the real life implications of this movie, which led to the nuclear industry trying to get it banned, and then like a week later, the 3 Mile Island incident happened, and
Yeah.
everyone was like, "Oh, so nuclear power is actually incredibly unsafe and not stable with the slightest." Great, good to know that. Uh, yeah, but yeah, I think this is still going to be a good movie. I love that this has taken us back to our first Best Picture showdown ceremony. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many weird little moments of like nostalgia that have happened regarding this particular episode. I'm excited to get into those more with the other films that I watched for the prep. It kept happening, and I was like, this is weird. But yeah, this is going to be a good one.
Yeah. It's to explain more, just kind of where we're at with Oscar Sunday. We're gonna basically nuke everything that we've been doing. Oscar Sunday, as we know it, is this is it. This is the last proper Oscar Sunday. It doesn't mean we won't ever do an Oscar related episode again, or kind of take the formula of what we're doing here to other episodes. Like we're going to continue podcasting. That's not stopping. We feel like between Oscar Sunday, Beyond the Bad, FILMGAZM, the Wednesday, like the tentpole show, and the newest show, Fake True Stories, we feel like we can kind of consolidate a little bit, allow ourselves to do more movies, and not kind of put ourselves in a stranglehold with the content. So we're going to continue to release, probably a couple episodes a week, maybe 3 sometimes, on things we just want to talk about week to week. So it'll allow us to do more current related stuff. When a movie release happens that we care about, that we want to see. For instance, Cocaine Bear. I saw it on Thursday. Connor, you saw it on Saturday. That we're recording on Saturday right now. You saw it today, and we would do an episode on that movie. You know what I mean? We want to do more things like that. Kind of be within. We want to be in touch with what's going on, while also still holding on to like those values of talking about the history of film and the stuff that's come from the past. Because that's our true passion, is talking about stuff we love from the past. And digging into that kind of stuff. Like for me, it is these kind of movies, these 70s paranoia movies, and of course, for a lot of our team members, it's horror movies, it's genre movies, it's doing director spotlights, it's doing top fives and more drafts, more kind of inclusive stuff. So I think it's going to be a lot more fun. I think it's going to be a better product for our listeners. Thank you guys for sticking with us. And if you want Oscar related content, we'll fucking give it to you. We have a really cool thing planned for the weekend of the actual Oscars on March 12th. We have a cool thing planned to come out that weekend. And then, of course, Connor and I are going to do some sort of recap episode after the Oscars. That's not going away. That passion that Connor and I have as movie lovers for this weird fucking organization that is very unfair, but also highlights a lot of cool movies. That's not going away. Beyond the bad, we could still be doing movies that are critically, destroyed and kind of doing our own thing with it. We're going to continue to talk about movies. That's the whole thing. That's what FILMGAZM is. It's by movie lovers, for movie lovers. That's never stopping. So the podcast is not ending. We're just kind of getting rid of the formula we have right now and that we have had for a long time now.
Yeah, I'm going to talk more about this on Wednesday's FILMGAZM, which will be the last of that version of FILMGAZM. But essentially, we're taking the best of every show and turning all of that into one stable product that has the best of everything. So I'm looking forward to that big time. We've got many ideas, a lot of big plans, and it's going to be good for all of us. It's going to help free up our time. We're going to be able to do episodes on stuff we actually care about and not be forced into doing a movie we've already announced that turns out to suck, that we then have to put a subpar episode out because nobody cares, which we have done before on every show. And that's going to stop.
Yeah, that's got to go, right? Luckily, on this show, there hasn't really ever been a time that I've, walked away from Zoom and walked away from talking to you and being like, that sucked or that was boring.
Yeah.
We always have managed to make something out of even movies we don't like. And that's a lot of props to just our chemistry, what we've built over time, doing this for multiple years now together. We've just kind of figured each other out as far as just trying to have a conversation that doesn't get stale. So, I am going to miss some stuff that has happened on this show. We've done over 20 Best Picture showdowns. Those have been a lot of fun and have taught us a lot about how many good movies have been nominated and also how many shitty movies have been nominated. We don't want to do that to ourselves. We don't want anything to ever be a task. We don't want it to be homework. We want it to be fun. You know what I mean? We're not getting paid for this shit, so we're trying to have fun. That's the ultimate goal. We want good product and for our team to have fun. So while I think it's taught us a ton, I do think it's time to move on. And that's Connor and I have been texting the past couple weeks, figuring out like, man, what is it? What is it? Like, there's an itch that I can't fucking scratch. And finally, in the same night, I was like, hey man, like when I see you next, I got some stuff to talk to you about. And then you were like, yeah, me too. And then you texted me and said, I can't wait. I got to just tell you now. And so we discussed it. We basically had the exact same idea. We had the exact same idea of let's kind of cut things back, maybe release less content, but for every episode to be a banger, for every episode to be awesome, kick ass, a fun time for our team. It's going to allow Josh to stretch and be more flexible. It's going to allow Caleb to be more flexible, Colton, and definitely us too. So it's going to be good for everyone. The fake true stories, those aren't going to go anywhere. Those are going to continue to happen. These kind of historical episodes based on movies that Connor and Isabella have been doing. Those aren't going to stop. They're probably going to get released on probably Wednesdays, maybe Monday. It kind of depends on what availability we have and what we're doing that week. But those will continue because those are a lot of fun. They're a great way to learn and hear about two people who know their shit when it comes to these particular movies. So that's never going anywhere. When we do individual movies, we're gonna, like Connor said, we're gonna kind of bring everything in, bring the awards side of Oscar Sunday, give movies awards. We're gonna bring in some Beyond the Bad stuff. We're gonna bring in some FILMGAZM stuff and kind of make each episode really special. And we're also again gonna do a lot more drafts, a lot more top fives, a lot more kind of retrospective type episodes where we get to really hone in on a director, a writer, an actor, and just focus on why we love them, or dislike them. Yeah, you never know. So yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be great. I am looking forward to talking about China Syndrome and figure out how you feel about all the movies you watch, because you watched a shit ton of 1979 movies for this episode. I did not do all that research. I'm already in the headspace where I'm like, let's move on. let's just get this done. But with that being said, I am excited to be here today. Like, I want to give one more proper go at Oscar Sunday because this has been my baby for a long time, and I'm going to treat it right.
Yeah, we got to send this off with a Viking funeral all the way, and I'm psyched to do this one last time this way, and then just have a blast every time going forward. It's going to be delightful.
Yeah. And that may mean that the listeners may hear your voice less because you're going to be like, hey, if I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it.
Yes. I have a thesis to write. So, I got backup now. So thankfully, yeah.
Yeah, correct. We got options, right? So it's going to be great. You'll probably hear more from my two older brothers more. They want to get more involved, and they love the idea of kind of making it more of a free for all where we're just kind of like, let's just tackle what we want each week. What's going on right now. I also, one of my favorite things about this new, formula is we will be able to adapt to real time much better. One of my biggest regrets on Oscar Sunday and on our shows in general was our show comes out on a Sunday. And if something happens earlier in the week, it's hard to give that proper due. Like when Sidney Poitier died last year, I was like, fuck, like we need to be doing Lilies of the Field now, but we already had all this stuff planned, and then we did it like 3 weeks later,
Yeah.
And that just didn't feel right. You know what I mean? We very rarely ever can adapt in real time. So that's going to get better. We can honor people that have either passed or reached some sort of milestone. We can honor those people in real time, and it'll be much more special, much more, cathartic for us too. When you get to talk about it when those emotions are still hot and heavy. I love that. So that's going to be really, really neat.
Yeah. This is everything every issue we've had with all of this is getting resolved in the right way, and is just allowing the entire team to have more of a voice, more of a say in the stuff we talk about, this how we talk about it. And that's what I've always wanted. I've always wanted a large, group of people all working towards the same thing and just enjoying the ride.
Yeah.
So here we go.
I'm fucking with you, man. I'm with you. Well, let's do this one more time, shall we?
Why not?
The fucking China Syndrome. So this is directed by James Bridges. Didn't do a whole lot. He directed like 8 movies. Was more of a writer. This is definitely kind of his thing. The China Syndrome is his most famous and most popular and most critically acclaimed movie. But when you got heavy hitters like Jane Fonda and Jack Lemmon and Michael Douglas, this is not their biggest thing. I would point to, for Jane Fonda, there's a lot of things you can point to. Cat Ballou, probably Clute. That's her first Oscar win. People love that movie. Jack Lemmon, I'd probably point to The Apartment, 1960, for probably his biggest movie, Best Picture winner, and he's just fucking lights out next to Shirley MacLaine in that one. Michael Douglas, that's a tough one. My initial thing with most people is they'd probably point to like Wall Street, but for me, it's probably like Fatal Attraction. I don't know. It's tough.
If we're talking most recognizable Michael Douglas role, it's probably Wall Street. I think that's what most people would immediately associate him with. But if we're talking personal favorite, it is easily The Game.
Yeah, David Fincher, 90s gem there. So yeah, I love The Game. Basic Instinct, that's one people definitely know. He was really good in Traffic. People like that movie. 2000, Steven Soderbergh. So yeah, he's got a lot.
I think these days, the younger generations definitely know him from the Ant-Man franchise.
Yeah, good for him, right? Staying in the know, staying in the modern times. That was a really good choice from him to be in those. To be in Marvel is like, well, yeah, now you have another wave of potential fans who are going to go back and watch your earlier work, So I hope young people do that. I know I always have with the Marvel movies. It's like, oh, who's that guy? Let me see what he's done to kind of earn this spot and get this kind of a paycheck.
Yeah, I hope people do that too. I'm sure they do. Film is film, art is art. It's all, the ever growing tapestry. So if I want to learn more about this. I still have never seen Wall Street. I gotta watch that movie.
I'm not a huge fan, but it is good. It's entertaining, and I did not like the newer one with Shia LaBeouf. Thought it was just not very good. But that's neither here nor there. Michael Douglas, what he's also very, very famous for is being a big time producer, being someone who goes to bat for movies, someone who wants to see, cinema fucking win, throughout his career. He, is a big reason why One Flew the Cuckoo's Nest got made. It's one of the reasons that movie was able to have the budget that it had, and he went to bat for it. Is like, hey, this is a vision. Like, we got to go with this. It ends up winning Best Picture against some very, very good competition in 1975. Ends up being one of the only 3 Big 5 winners of all time. So that's really cool. Like, that stuff matters. When who he reminds me of is Brad Pitt. Like, Brad Pitt's kind of the modern Michael Douglas, where he's like, let me like put my hand in all these things and help these things get made and kind of give back to the thing that's given me my life. I love that.
I agree. I also, you got to point out that Michael Douglas had a big leg up in Hollywood, being the son of Kirk Douglas, definitely had a much easier time being a name, but he definitely used that recognizability for, he used it to help a lot of independent productions be something. And I don't think he's ever squandered that leg up, which is good. I've always liked Michael Douglas.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, he's good. He's good cat. So he's credited with a win for being a producer on One Flew the Cuckoo's Nest, and he's also got the Best Actor in a Lead Role for Wall Street 1987. So he's a 2-time Oscar winner. If you want to look at it that way, that's cool stuff for a guy who nowadays is in the Ant-Man movies. And Jane Fonda, absolute titan. Just so easy to watch on the screen. She's got so much grace. She's so fucking beautiful, and has this kind of like badass thing about her, where she in real life was kind of living the way her characters lived. Like, she was very much going to different rallies and protests, and I love that about her. I love learning that stuff about her. And she's still fucking rocking it, dude. She was just in a movie like a couple weeks ago, that's shitty. I mean, I haven't seen it, but I imagine it's shitty. The Tom Brady movie. Like, she's still in movies, this lady.
Yeah, you got to respect that, in your 80s, still, rocking. I think she was arrested at a protest not too many years ago. It's like still, sticking to her principles and making content and, believing in the process. I like that a lot. She's never compromised who she is. And, she also was able to carve out her own identity, similar to Michael Douglas, being Henry Fonda's daughter. I'm sure it was no walk in the park, a lot of expectations living up to that shadow. But she definitely became her own actor and in many ways outshined her father, I think, at times.
Yeah, I know. I think when you look at her resume, you're just kind of like, holy shit. Even if you haven't seen all the movies, you're just like, wow, those are a lot of very recognizable movies. And when it comes to the Oscars, She's got a nomination. Her first one was for They Shoot Horses, Don't They, 1969. And then she wins a couple years later for her role in Clute. Great movie, man. Just like you could talk about that one all day. That's one that I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do that on the new show. We're gonna figure out a way. I want to do a Paranoia trilogy, with that Parallax View and All the President's Men all like in one big badass episode. That'd be so cool. She was nominated again in 1977 for Julia. She won her second Oscar in 1978, Coming Home. Again, a movie we watched for the first time on this show. We got lucky. We both loved it. Jon Voight is fucking unreal in that movie. Bruce Dern's unreal in that movie. Just grade A stuff there. Coming Home is awesome. Hal Ashby, underrated. I'll say that. Then she's nominated again a year later for The China Syndrome, 1979. Kind of the queen of the 70s there, 4 nominations in 1 decade, 2 wins. Get the fuck out. People don't do that anymore. That doesn't happen. And then she has the nomination in 1981 on Golden Pond, Best Actress in a Supporting Role, another movie that we've talked about on this show because we did Chariots of Fire way back when. Shit movie. On Golden Pond, not shit movie. Very, very good classic. And you got the Fonda element, going on in that one. That's a good one. And then her last nomination is 1986, The Morning After. Morning After, I wanted to love that movie because it's her and Jeff Bridges, right? 2 people I absolutely adore. Admittedly, it's Sidney Lumet. It's not a great movie. It's really, really holding on to the performances of those two. It's kind of an absurd movie. I'll be honest, man. I watched it and I was like, I'm cool with this because I love these two. I could watch these two kind of do anything. But if you look at the critics and stuff, the way they react to this movie, it's not pretty. Rocking a 5.9 on IMDb. It's pretty bad for a Jane Fonda and Jeff Bridges movie directed by Sidney Lumet. Pretty weird.
Oh, absolutely. Sidney Lumet has one of the most exciting filmographies of any director. 12 Angry Men to Before the Devil Knows You're Dead and everything in between. Oh, so great to hear that he stumbled with Jane Fonda and Jeff Bridges. That sucks.
Yeah. And the basic premise of the movie, I loved the beginning of the movie. I was like, oh, this is great. You got Jane Fonda who's playing an actress who's an alcoholic. And again, this was a couple years ago, but she basically wakes up to a guy who's dead. And then Jeff Bridges becomes involved. I can't remember exactly how that he connects to it, but he becomes involved. And then there's kind of a will they, won't they between Bridges and Fonda. And he's trying to help her figure out what the fuck happened with this dead guy, and she's off her rocker, she's fucking drunk as shit. And, it's worth a watch just because it's what is this? How wild is it that this movie didn't win a bunch of stuff, But I wouldn't recommend it to just everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sounds like failed Oscar bait. Reminds me a bit of Amsterdam and Empire of Light. Sometimes you don't impress the right people and your movie just kind of disappears.
Yeah, man, that happens a lot more than people realize. And you look back on your Letterboxd and think about all the movies that you saw there. You're like, oh, that's a shoo-in. That's a shoo-in for a couple Oscars, and then nothing. Just nothing. Big fucking goose egg. Morning After, the only nomination it got was Jane Fonda. So, yeah, love her to death, man. She's just a titan. And like you said, she's in her 80s now. I think she's 85. Holy shit. I can't believe she's still in movies and still active and has kind of a presence about her still. That's pretty incredible. Let's talk about, before we get into our awards, let's talk about Jack Lemmon. This guy, rest in peace. He died 20 years ago now. Yeah, 2001. He was 76 years old. There's not anybody you can point to that's like Jack Lemmon. He's kind of a caliber of actor that matches up with the likes of a James Stewart, but he's got his own distinct style. He really, really plays kind of a paranoid, freaked out, normal dude better than anyone that I've ever seen. The Apartment is a tour de force. His performance in that movie is incredible. So is Shirley MacLaine, man. She's lights out in that movie. He's got a handful of nominations and 2 wins. Mr. Roberts, 1955, first nomination, also won for that. Best actor in a supporting role. Then he was alongside the great Marilyn Monroe, Some Like It Hot, 1959. He was nominated again a year later for The Apartment. Nominated again a couple years later for Days of Wine and Roses, 1962. And then he got his second win for Best Actor in a Lead Role, Save the Tiger, 1973. And then his last three nominations are China Syndrome, 1979, Tribute, 1980, and Missing, 1982. I've always wanted to see Missing. It's one of those 80s movies that I'm like, that's so far up my alley, but I haven't checked it out yet. And Jack Lemmon's one of those guys that I know one day I'm going to do a bunch of homework on him and it's going to pay off and it's going to feel good.
Funny that you compared him to Jimmy Stewart, because he does feel like a Jimmy Stewart of the 70s, like with that everyman vibe, but without a lot of the hope.
Yes.
And yeah, China Syndrome, especially, you feel that just, a guy who's so certain that he's in a position where everything's fine. And then he realizes, no, it's far from fine. And he's at the center of it and he chooses to do something about it. And yeah, Jack Lemmon's just one of those guys who I would trust to make that decision. He does something similar in The Apartment, where he's trapped, he's trapped in a situation where if he makes the wrong choice, it's going to destroy his life, but he can't sit idly by and let that happen. It's just the kind of characters he played. And I always love that until we get to Glenn Ross, where he's playing kind of a shit.
Yeah, but isn't that great? Like he plays against type in the 90s. His first Oscar nomination, first win is in 1955. 40 years later, he's like, let's have some fun. And he's alongside fucking Pacino and just that movie's stellar. I can't wait to do that one day, just on our own, whenever the fuck we want to do it. It's just got so much juice in that one, and I can rewatch it all day. But yeah, Jack Lemmon's the man. He is great in the China Syndrome. All three of these, main actors are. Last guy I want to mention, just because you and I kind of talked about it over text, how it's just like really interesting. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I have a feeling it's Wilford Brimley.
It's Wilford Brimley, baby. He plays Ted Spindler in the China Syndrome. He's kind of Jack Lemmon's right-hand man at the power plant, and he's got a lot on his shoulders, just like Jack Lemmon's character does. Whose name is Jack Goodell. And man, their rapport in this movie, the thing that they have going on where they're clearly really good friends, but Ted's also like, you're freaking out, man. Like, and you need to let me in, like I'm willing to hear you out, but like, you got to tell me the truth, and then of course, like his big speech at the end, Ted Spindler, when he's like, he's not a loony. He's the sanest man I know. The reason I like to bring him up is because, of course, Connor and I, one of our favorite movies of all time is The Thing, and he is lights out in The Thing. It's one of those supporting performances that I will go to bat for any day of the week. Sometimes I think he's my favorite character in the movie. It's that kind of a thing.
Weirdly, 3 movies I watched for this episode had people from The Thing in it. Wilford Brimley was in The China Syndrome. Palmer was in Being There. And Windows was in And Justice for All. And it was just,
there you go.
How weird that would be kind of the nexus movie of these films.
Yeah, but isn't that great?
It's perfect. It's awesome.
This 1982 just straight up masterpiece, by Mr. Carpenter. Yeah, man, I love Wilford Brimley. Everything I've seen him in, he's great in The Natural. That's another performance I love by him. I'm really into that dude. Dr. Blair is a character I'm very, very fond of.
Yeah. I want to come inside. I'm okay now. I'd like to come back inside.
Yeah, it's just the tension. The tension is second to none in The Thing. So yeah, Wilford Brimley, rest in peace to him as well. He died just a couple years ago, in 2020. So 3 years ago now. What weird. And he's got a bunch of really cool character actor type performances that'll just kind of live on forever through these great movies. The awards for the China Syndrome. This is gonna be fascinating. I'm curious. I know you felt like this movie. I want to say in your review for it, you kind of compared it to The Big Short, where there's a lot of technical jargon. There's a lot of dialogue we can't understand. We were kind of thrown into the mix here without any, power plant for dummies book. It's just you're supposed to just jump right in, and either you keep up or you don't. And at times it's like, yeah, but like who's supposed to? Other times you very much get what's going on. You understand. Yeah, that thing's fucking wobbly. There's a vibration. They gotta fucking check the screws. They gotta check the welding on that thing. And if they don't, this thing might fucking blow. You understand that. You understand that the powers that be, the authorities, are fucking assholes, and they're greedy. They want to just line their pockets. They don't really care about anybody else. They don't care if people get cancer 60 years from now. You know what I mean? They don't care about those repercussions of radiation and what could happen here. That's why I love this movie, is that even when I don't understand a lot of the actual dialogue, I get the gist, and I understand that these guys suck, and Jane Fonda and Michael Douglas get it. They know they suck, and they're trying to get Jack Lemmon to admit that they suck. That's like the whole premise of the movie, and I kind of love that about it. So the Quentin Tarantino Award, of course, is for the best quote of the movie. The Ennio Morricone Award is for the best music moment of the movie. The Philip Seymour Hoffman Award is for the best performance of the movie, which there's some competition here. And the Roger Deakins Award is for the best scene of the movie, also some competition. Take it away with your Tarantino when you're ready.
My Tarantino comes from a minor character, actually. When Michael Douglas has nuclear engineers reviewing the tape of the accident, and he hears their thoughts, and one of them says, "I may be wrong, but I'd say you're lucky to be alive. For that matter, I think we might say the same for the rest of Southern California." It's like,
man,
holy shit, to just drop that with no buildup of like, hey, by the way, if that had blown up, so would half the damn state. It's like, what the fuck? Like, you start understanding the gravity of what happened and what could still happen if the wrong people are calling the shots here. And you just understand that, like, they got to do something because no one's paying attention to this, potential catastrophic failure. And you can see the look in Jane Fonda's eyes of like, oh, it's that serious. I didn't realize that. And yeah, that's for me, like the turning point of when shit starts to get particularly serious.
Yeah.
And I really like that. I like the delivery, and I love the implications.
Yeah. And they explain what the title of the movie is, I love that scene. Those two guys are just like, what in the fuck? Like, this needs to be on the news, these two scientists who admit, what's going on. And it's so cool because the beginning of the movie, when they go to the power plant just for like a normal news story, and when you see the accident, Jack Lemmon's face says it all. Like, he knows deep down somewhere, he's like, oh my God, we're about to be responsible for one of the greatest disasters of mankind.
When Jack Lemmon starts getting worried, get worried. Because he's always just, funny, charming guy. But when he's got his worry face on, time to panic.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, it's just a brilliant bit. I love that bit. I love that bit a lot. I want to go with a fucking bang here. This is my last proper Tarantino for this show, so I'm going with a fucking big string of dialogue. It was up for possibly going to be my Deakins, so I wanted to move it over to the Tarantino because it's one of the most intense moments of the movie between our three main characters, Jack Lemmon, Richard, Michael Douglas, and Kimberly Wells, Jane Fonda. So Richard speaking, between the three of them, and he says, I showed the film to a nuclear engineer. You almost uncovered the core, Mr. Goodell. And Kim says, Mr. Goodell, you lied to me last night. We're not going to leave here until you tell us exactly what happened at that plant. Jack, so some anti-nuclear nut tells you we almost uncovered the core, but we didn't uncover it, did we? We stopped in time for one simple reason, and I told you that. The system works, goddammit. The system works. That's not the problem. He's clearly panicked. Richard, back to Michael Douglas. If that's not the problem, then what the hell is? Back to Jack. I love that plant. It's been my whole life, and he's now starting to fucking talk about like he's looking forward now. He's like, oh God, this is about to get real. And now he's thinking about his emotions and his feelings about his job, you know. That's why he says that. He does one of the classic Jack Lemmon things where he wipes his fucking forehead with all that sweat. He looks freaked out. And then Kim finally says to him, "What is the problem?" And Jack admits, "The shutter, the damn shutter. The vibration I felt during that turbine trip, it bothered me, but sure didn't bother anybody else. And while I'm checking it, I find that some idiot phonied the welding x-rays. I just cannot believe a man would deliberately falsify the records of a nuclear reactor. My God." Richard, "Holy shit." Kim, "That means the plant's not very safe, is it?" Jack, "It means that vibration was a warning and that the plant should be shut down. Every one of those welds should be re-x-rayed. Of course, we're talking about millions of dollars, but we don't want to talk about that. And no one will believe me, but if they ever put too much pressure on that pump, rupture those pipes." And then Kim interrupts him and says, "The China syndrome." And he says, "Yeah, it's possible." And you're like, here we go. Jack's on board, baby. Let's take him down, you know? And it's just so great because it's not, it's not people with guns about to go kill some monster. It's not fucking, the army about to like, oh, let's fucking go. It's three real people with everyday lives trying to do the right thing. And that's like so inspiring and so cool. The way Kim and Richard like attack him with words like, "Dude, like you need to tell us because we're the only people that give a shit. And we'll try to do what we can to get it, to get it fixed, to, figure this thing out so people don't die, And Jack's finally like, "You're right. I'm the only one in that room who's going to admit what happened on that day." And so it's recalling back to the very beginning of the movie. And we finally have a moment that we've been waiting for the whole time, where it's those three kind of having just a nice powwow. And it's a great scene. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, that really showcases their talents, all three of them. And you love to see them get, Jack to open his eyes and realize that this is life or death. This is a make or break human being moment where you have to decide what kind of person you're going to be. And in that moment, we see Jack make that decision. And it's a pretty powerful scene.
Yeah, it's great. Jack, from that point on, Jack is just like on 10. Like, oh my God, like I'm going to either die or I'm going to save a bunch of people, And in the end, yeah, shit hits the fan. The Ennio Morricone Award, best music moment. What do you got?
I gave this to the opening credit song, Somewhere in Between by Stephen Bishop.
Dude, such a sick song. Me too. I love that. I love that song so much.
Yeah, it sets an interesting tone of kind of like, we don't quite know where we're going, but we know that people are going to be a bit wiser on the way out.
Yeah.
And I like that. It's, this is kind of like a, Willy Wonka's nuclear factory. It's
brilliant, man. It's such a cool song. And the opening of the movie is so impressive. And this is like one of my favorite things about these kinds of movies, this kind of technical awareness at the beginning. When they're doing the whole news thing, you got a bunch of the different monitors, and you got the guy who's kind of controlling, and he's like, "All right, Kim, we got, we're rolling in 40 seconds. And she's like, "No, I need 2 minutes. My cameraman's taking a piss." And he's like, "Well, you got 40 seconds. And finally he comes back out from taking a piss with a cigarette in his mouth, and is like, she's like, "Come on, like, do your job." And then when they do all that, they tell her, "Oh, hey, you're going to go down the power plant and do this bit for the news." And then the song starts playing. They're fucking rolling down Hollywood and Vine. You see Capitol Records. You're like, "Oh, we're in LA, dude. Let's go." And then, they take clearly a nice, decently long trip to the power plants out in the middle of nowhere. And, they do this whole bit. I believe it's called the Ventana power plant. And it's a great scene, great song, like brilliant song. I love this kind of music where you have, this kind of, kind of high pitched voice, but also kind of kicks ass. It's kind of reminds me of Neil Young, and then you got a sick fucking guitar solo like at the end of the song, and we're off. It's like a 3-minute jam that gets you from point A to point B. Well done, well done. And the movie gets rolling, and I love it from there on out. So I chose the same thing. I think it's perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I love a good tone setter for an opening song. Like, I want to be thrust into this world and told, like, this is how you should start to feel. Like, be prepared.
Yeah.
kind of vibe. And yeah, I think that song accomplishes it because you just wonder, like, okay, Jane Fonda's going to a nuclear plant. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, this is my comfort. Like I'm home when I'm watching these kind of movies. That decade is just hands down the best at these kind of movies. These kind of just really, really authentic and raw and real type movies about things that happen, that can happen, that will happen, you know? Uh, of course, I mentioned, like Clute, All the President's Men is based on, fact. And I love shit like that, just gets me going. It gets me amped up. And usually the music choices are great. Usually the performances have to be great for it to be worthy of being talked about, So it just kind of hits all the boxes that I'm looking for in these kind of movies.
We didn't have the lily white, bullshit of 50s Hollywood. We never would have gotten this endless string of fuck the establishment movies that we just love.
Yeah. Yeah, I just can't get enough of them. So yeah, good shit, man. This one's gonna be good. The Philip Seymour Hoffman Award. Before you say who it is this competition for you? Is it up to 2 people, 3 people? Like what's your kind of range here?
Yeah, this is definitely a three-way contest here between our 3 leads. I think any of them could take it. I had trouble kind of picking one because everyone's got their standout moment. But ultimately, I had to give this to Jack Lemmon.
I chose him as well. My heart was wanting to go with Jane Fonda, but my mind was like, no, man, this is Lemon's movie, man. Like, yeah. he's being asked to do the most with actual acting. His character goes through the ringer throughout this movie, and right from the get go, you just have this uneasiness about him. Like there's something about him where you like feel like he's about to just fucking fall over. Like he's like you could just. What's that line in Shawshank where Red says like like he talks about how Andy looks like the wind would just blow him over. You know what I'm talking about, that line?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think about that when I see Jack Adele. I think about that line when I see Jack Lemmon in this movie where it's like I think it's like a stiff breeze would just blow the guy right over. I've always loved that narration from Red at the beginning of when Andy goes to Shawshank. There's just so many great lines, and I always think about that with certain actors. And Jack Lemmon kind of has that about him, where it's like, man, and then to see him at the end, like how strong he becomes. It's really cool ride. He's fucking excellent in this movie. Totally worth a nomination.
Yeah, for sure. He's a yes sir, no sir, lifer company man who's just working to get his pension and happens to be there on the day that triggers the worst day of his life. And yeah. He has a come to Jesus moment where he's like, what kind of man am I? Am I the man who can ignore countless safety precautions in a nuclear power plant and just shut up till it's time to retire? Or am I the kind of man who opens his mouth and takes a stand? And watching him become that man, kind of make the decision of like, constantly wrestling with those demons, and then in the end paying for it with his life, it's rewarding. He really makes this film memorable for me.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, man. One of my favorite scenes of his, because obviously a lot of acting is reacting when you're watching someone speak to you. One of my favorite reactions he has in this movie is when it's after the accident. It's after they've kind of had this investigation. They're like, "Oh, we're good. Everything's fine. It's going to be okay. We're going to get back slowly. We're going to get back to where we are." Because the company says every day that they're not up and running and online is what they say. They're losing up like $500,000. So like we have to get this back and going. I love that moment when Ted comes into his office and he's like, he kind of wakes Jack up just a little bit. And he's like, well, no, everything's okay, right? And Ted's like, yeah, well, I was in there for 7 hours. Everyone else is in there for, an hour or two. I'm a 25-year company man who has no experience with nuclear, power plants. Who the hell do you think they're going to point the finger at if this goes wrong? I was like, oh, what a fucking scene, like what a sick piece of dialogue from Ted. and Jack's reaction is just like says everything. His face, his eyes, just like, oh shit, like he's right. He's fucking right. And that's his buddy. That's the guy he has lunch with every day, and he's worked with for years. I've always loved a character like that who's like working somewhere, and the place that buys the property continues to hire that guy because he's just awesome. Because he just does his job. He's a good dude, and Ted's a good dude. He is a company man, and there's something cool about that.
Yeah, I do like Ted kind of, also wrestling with the same question. And then it takes Jack's, execution really to wake him up and make him realize, like, yeah, this is fucked. This is not right. They killed my friend. and they lied to everybody. For me, the moment that kind of won Jack Lemmon the award for me was after he gets shot and he's lying there bleeding out, and he just uses his last moments to tell them, like, I feel it. Like, it's happening right now. Like, do something now.
The vibration. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's just, he goes out. Yeah. Goddamn. The more I talk about this movie, I think I might have been wrong with my initial analysis.
You might have, I also probably played it up like, a lot. I do, like, I adore this movie. It's a 9 out of 10 type movie. And I've only seen it twice, and I just adore it, and this is just my niche. This is my kind of movie for sure. And I do think Jack is the thing you walk away just like, no matter what you feel about the movie, like, that guy was fucking good in that. Like, he put in a shift for this movie. And he makes you curious. He's like, what else has this guy done? It's one of those kind of opening the door type moments where you're like, what else has Jack Lemmon done like this? I want to see that. I want to see what else he's capable of. That's big for people our age that weren't alive when he was doing his thing in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Like, we need those moments of show us your stuff, show us your juice, prove why you're a 8-time Oscar nominee. Like, prove it. And he proves it in the China Syndrome. Like, he proves that, like, that name that he has and that stature that he has with movie people, with people like your mom and your grandparents who they know who Jack Lemmon is because he's a fucking badass. And like, my parents, when I told them, oh, I finally watched The Apartment, I finally watched The China Syndrome, my dad's like, oh, those are good movies. Like, that guy's awesome. It's cool to be a part of that conversation.
Yeah. I've kind of rediscovered Jack Lemmon with this podcast because when I was a kid, I knew him from this movie called My Fellow Americans.
Ah, nice. Good call.
Yeah. He plays an ex-president alongside James Garner, they're trying to get to the White House to prevent the current president, played by Dan Aykroyd, from doing some big scandal. And they were rivals who ran against each other, and they've always hated one another, and they have to, put their differences aside to save the nation. And I knew Jack Lemmon as this goofy old man. And through this show, I watched The Apartment, The China Syndrome. I'm finding a new side of him that I'd never known before as this highly respected, highly decorated character actor. And it's been incredibly rewarding and very exciting to find his material.
Yeah, man. Yeah. He's someone Oscar Sunday, like you said, has given to us. That's like one of the coolest things about this show is there's a class of actors from before our time that we knew about but didn't know about. Yeah. And Jack Lemmon, James Stewart, Burt Lancaster, like, these guys mean a lot more to us now after watching more of their stuff. So I'll always be grateful for that because of Oscar Sunday. Thank you. All right, Roger Deakins Award, best scene of the movie. Here we go. What do you got?
For me, this is when Hector gets run down by the van.
Ooh, okay. Hector, what a cool character.
Yeah, you kind of knew, like, when is somebody going to die to prove that this is a real threat? Like, when is the nuclear industry going to be like, all right, we got to start assassinating people? And as soon as that van pulls out after Hector, I'm like, oh, he's going to die. But the way that unfolds is right out of fucking Duel. It's so crazy.
Nice.
And I love the image of just the van coming up incredibly fast in the back window. You might not even notice it at first, but if you're looking at that van, you're freaking out. And it just immediately runs him off the road, and we never see that van again. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's an insane scene. You can feel it when he's giving him the X-rays when Jack meets him, and Jack's freaked out. He's being followed, so therefore now this guy that he passed these things over to is now being followed. They want those X-rays. They don't want them to show up to this, council meeting and be able to just destroy the power plant with, hey, look at this, the welding is off consistently, it's such a brilliant scene, man. I love that scene. And the other, I almost chose that. I almost chose the scene where Jack approaches the guy who's in charge of signing off the welding, and he's like, "You fucking son of a bitch! Like, you signed off on these, and you knew they were fucked." And the guy's like, "They've been good for 6 years. They'll be good for 6,000 more." Like, he's just got no idea like what the gravity of this is. And when he finally admits it, he's like, "Yeah, we gotta end this because like it's my ass." And so it just becomes this chain reaction of all these idiots covering their asses because they know they fucked up. It's so good. But ultimately, the scene I've gone with, it was my favorite scene the first time I watched it. It's my favorite scene the second time I watched it. It was the scene I was waiting for the whole time, is the car chase. One of the most just kind of raw, natural car chases I've ever seen in a movie. It's never ridiculous or over the top. It feels like it feels like that's how I would try to get away from someone chasing me in the car, natural things, turning on actual highways and, making real moves so that you're like, I know I need to get away from these guys, but I can't, I can't do fucking Jason Bourne shit. You know what I mean? I love natural car chases, natural, whatever it is. It could be a boat chase, it could be a bike chase. I love when it feels like it could happen to you, and Jack Lemmon during that scene, it's brilliant when he gets away and then he sees them right next to him and he's like, "Oh, motherfucker." And he exits right away and that car is like, it's just so good. And then he goes to the actual power plant and fucking comes right up to the gate and the guys are like, "Jesus, Jack, what's your fucking deal?" And he pulls in and the other car comes up and is like, and they're like, "What the hell is going on here?" Little do they know that, this guy's about to get murdered, incredible, just incredible stuff. It's one of my favorite scenes from the 70s. Jack Lemmon car chase. I'll never forget it.
I love later when he tells Kimberly, like, I had to go back to the plant because I knew they couldn't get in.
Yeah.
I'm trapped here. We have to do something. Like, I can't imagine being, the guy who finds out about, the big secret, the guy who's being hunted by, the bigger fish, because you're the only one who can bring it all down. That is a nightmare. And I can't imagine being trapped in that situation.
It's one of my favorite things in movies is when it just so happens that this decade is just full of these kind of like stakeout paranoia, just like, "Oh fuck, is that car watching me? Is that car watching me?" I there's just nothing like it. It's one of my favorite things. I often think of like some of my favorite car scenes are from The French Connection. There's so many like brilliantly constructed, choreographed car chases, car scenes in that movie, and I think the China Syndrome was like, "Hey, we got something in our bag," and it's that one short scene, but it is so good. And I love like you pointed out that he's trapped there. Like the movie takes a lot of it takes place in that power plant, man. It's like it's really honed in and focused on what it wants to say. This movie doesn't have some stupid love story with Jane Fonda. Like they don't force anything like that where it's like, "Oh, she's also in love," and that's like another thing that you have to. It really focuses on the story of this power plant. I love that about it.
I was so glad they didn't try to force anything between Fonda and Douglas. I had a feeling they were going in that direction, and then it never happened. She the whole time is just like, "You asshole, why do you keep getting me into these situations?" And he's like, "Because I'm an anarchist, bitch. Let's do this."
Yeah.
And it's just unforgiving. It's like, yeah, this is who she is. This is who he is. Go with it.
I love Michael Douglas in this movie so much because it feels like a very real work relationship between a woman and a man, a very attractive man and a very attractive woman. There's this respect, but also this kind of like, I'm going to get you off your ass to do the best work you've ever done for both of them, you know? And I love that about their relationship. I love when she has to leave and he's like, room B309. And she's like, you better wait for me, motherfucker. And he's like, I'll be there, you know? Because the whole time when he steals the film, he's like, I'm in control. Michael Douglas is like, I'm the captain of the ship now, you know? He has one of those moments. And so, like, throughout the rest of the movie, he's pretty much like, hey, like, what I say, what I do is it's gonna happen. Like that's what goes. And I love he's like, I'm gonna lure her in to this, you know, this fucking room with these scientists, and she's gonna see exactly what I've been fucking freaking out about since it happened. You know, I also love his decision to start recording during the accident at the very beginning of the movie. He's just holding the camera right here like a football, and he's just boom hits record, and she's like, "Are you recording?" And he's like, yes, I am. You know, it's just like a little head nod where he's like, you're damn right I'm recording.
I love how, you know, her boss reacts to all this. First, you know, he's like, you know, my hands are tied. They'll sue us out of existence if we release that film. But then he's like, you know, find that film. You know, if you got a story, bring me a goddamn story. Just, you know, don't do it the right way. And then in the end, he's like, that was some goddamn good work from her. Like, I like that he's kind of, you know, in her corner the whole time, but can't really talk about that. And plus, he's played by the guy who played Mulder's dad in the X-Files. So the whole time I was like, I know him.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. So that was great. I like that, you know, there's not really any like sexism or anything. Like it's very much like whoever can do the good work gets rewarded for it. And I love that kind of situation.
Oh yeah, it's great. The end of the movie when she's like tearing up and she still covers the story and does it really well is so cool. Because at the end of the day, you know, you got a movie about a power plant, but you initially when you're with Fonda and you're with Douglas, it's a movie about like news. It's a movie about breaking news and like what it takes to go to these locations and do the work yourself. And I love movies like that. I love movies about people that are like reporters, you know, like a more modern one. Like I love Nightcrawler because it's about getting to the scene first, attacking whatever happened here first, who gets there, who covers it the right way, who gets the best footage. And that's what goes on the TV. And that's what we all see when we're fucking having our, you know, morning coffee, you know, we're seeing those people, the work that they do. It's cool.
Yeah. I love movies that highlight, you know, kind of the background, like the behind the scenes stuff of stuff we just kind of, you know, deal with all the time, but don't really think about, you know, what goes into making the news is complex as shit and incredibly like, you know, timed. I mean, we think we have, you know, a difficult release schedule. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's around the clock. It's 24/7. It's your life. Yeah.
Yeah. This represents that very well. And also just, you know, the growing fear of nuclear power at the time and how nobody like civilians just really didn't know anything about that except, you know, that it was powerful and it was potentially dangerous. But other than that, like nuclear power was a closely guarded secret. And this movie showed you a little bit of how, you know, what would happen if nobody was really paying attention to safety precautions and scared the shit out of people. Understandably so. And then a real incident happened and everything changed after that.
Crazy, right? It's crazy when movies can predict stuff, you know, and there's a lot of parallels. So it's really, really, really interesting, but also again, very, very scary. Oh, good stuff, man. I enjoyed those awards. That was fun hearing kind of, you know, where we're at. We both had Lemon. We both had the same Inyo for the Stephen Bishop track at the beginning. You went with the Hector car chase. I went with the Jack Lemmon car chase, you know, and you went with a nice kind of tight Tarantino that kind of represents the movie. And I went with a big dialogue between the main three. Feels right.
Yeah, totally feels right. During the car chase scene, I remember thinking like, so this is why Austin loves this movie.
Yeah.
Because I know you love your car chases.
I do love me. You know, if you know me, you know, there's nothing like a car chase, and if you can do a fucking bank robbery and a car chase back to back, you know, you've got me. You know, I'm in. I'm all in. That's why like the town works on me so well. It's because there's multiple incidents where that happens. Let's look at the 52nd Academy Awards. We're gonna allow Connor to do some talking on these categories. I can't say nearly as much because he did a lot of work here. I'd already seen a couple of the movies that you watched here for the first time, but most of them I have not seen. I'm looking forward to kind of hearing your general thoughts on them. Let's start with best art direction / set decoration. Let's just call it art direction. What are we doing? Set decoration sounds like a fucking Christmas party. Come on. What are we doing? The winner for art direction is All That Jazz. Understandably, it beat a pretty crazy group here. It beat Alien, Apocalypse Now, The China Syndrome, and Star Trek. For me, I have seen all these. I'd give this thing to Alien, this award. I just think that's why it's lasted so long. I think All That Jazz looks really cool and is obviously doing the whole play thing. But Alien, there's some moments there of practicality where you're like, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
I'm with you 100%. Alien deserved this one. The structure of Alien, the set, is so like, Star Wars meets like haunted house kind of gothic in like horror in space that is really like a unique look. Even the rest of the Alien movies don't look like Alien. It's very special. And I think that should have taken that. At least it got visual effects.
Yeah, I'm cool with that, right? Alien is one of those you look back and you're like, why wasn't it up for like 10 Oscars? It's one of those movies that I'd say that and Apocalypse Now are the ones that are talked about way more than the other Oscar nominees. I love Kramer's Kramer. I'll go to bat for that motherfucker any day. But people are just not having conversations about Kramer's Kramer the way they are about Alien and Apocalypse Now. And that should matter a little bit, Now the other three categories are big time. We'll spend some time on these. I'm going to definitely allow you to talk about, a couple of these movies you saw for the first time. Screenplay written directly for the screen, otherwise known as original screenplay. The win is for Breaking Away, written by Steve Tesich. We both enjoyed that movie. We did it on the Best Picture Showdown. We both thought, hey, it's a pretty good movie. I had no idea what it was going to be about, but ended up being pretty solid watch. Breaking Away beat All That Jazz, written by Robert Allen Arthur and Bob Fosse, and Justice for All, written by Valerie Curtin and Barry Levinson. The China Syndrome, written by Mike Gray, T.S. Cook, and James Bridges. And finally, Manhattan, written by Woody Allen and Marshall Brickman. What do you got?
Well, in terms of first-time watches, I watched And Justice for All and Manhattan for this.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to preface by saying that I 100% think that this should have gone to And Justice for All.
Totally fair.
That is a brilliant courtroom drama and features the most noble character Al Pacino has ever played. And it was so nice to see him play a unrepentant good guy for once, because he's so, morally gray with most of his characters. This was just a lawyer who just wanted to help people who'd been screwed and got ridiculously screwed himself. It is such a great movie, great character movie, and I really recommend that one. I enjoyed that big time.
Yeah, solid flick. How about Manhattan?
I'm really tired of Woody Allen's shtick. Like, yeah, Annie Hall was good, but maybe stop making it every 3 years. Like, just old neurotic asshole dates much younger woman and nobody around him seems to care. It's creepy. And in this movie, she's 17 and in high school and everyone's like, well, you don't have anything in common. Like, that's the problem here. And it's weird. And nobody cared. Like, it's only the past 5 or 6 years we've really gone after Woody Allen for being a creep.
And like, even then, people don't go after him enough, And no. It's like we hold back. Like, for what? What are we holding back for? This guy's done, like, it's a multiple time thing that he's done here. I don't know.
This dude has a shit ton of nominations for writing and directing the same goddamn movie every few years. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of acting like Woody Allen is this genius. He's not. He's a neurotic weirdo who fucked his ex-wife's adopted daughter. And that's pretty much it. He's not that funny. He's not that creative. He's not as brilliant as we've been led to believe. And all of his movies are pretty much the goddamn same. So there it is. On the final Oscar Sunday, I am finally just giving it to Woody Allen.
Yeah. You
We've danced around it a lot on this show. I'm just doing it now.
Yeah. And I'm for the most part, I'm with you. I want to say the movies we've talked about on the show. Here's Manhattan. Purple Rose of Cairo is probably the first time we mentioned him.
No.
Hannah and Her Sisters is something we talked about on the Platoon Best Picture Showdown. Um, we've never really talked about Annie Hall because we never did that year because it won Best Picture. I think that's about it.
Yeah, he's not a director I want to
No, oh
explore.
no.
I've seen some stuff outside the show, like Midnight in Paris and Whatever Works. And Whatever Works, it's just he just got Larry David to do it instead of himself, which was it's the same shit.
Okay, so there's where there's like an ounce of respect that I have. Ounce is a tough word. I have a little bit of respect for Woody Allen as far as his influence. I see a lot of people that I like, including like the Seinfelds and the Larry Davids.
Yeah.
They've kind of taken his shtick and made it funnier and better. And the kind of everyday life. I think Nora Ephron definitely at times was like, oh, I can do that, but I can make it like a little more fun, a little more relatable for people. I see a lot of Woody Allen type stuff in When Harry Met Sally, including the location of the movie.
Yeah.
I do have like a little bit of respect for just kind of the influence he had on a generation of writers and directors who were like, hey, I want to tell stories about like normal people who live normal lives and also have like this weird thing going on, because a lot of families, including my own, have some fucking weird history, some twisted, strange history. Like, for example, my grandma on my dad's side, she well, I'll start. So my grandma's sister, so my great aunt was married to this guy, and my grandma started like sleeping with him. Then she married him, so they were both married. Like sisters were married to the same guy, right? And like everybody was just like, yeah, it's fine, it's cool, it's great, it's no big deal. And then another one of the sisters also slept with him. This is my on my dad's side. I think there was 11 of them altogether. Most of them have passed away now, but I think there was 11 of them, brothers and sisters. 3 sisters slept with the same guy. 2 of them were married to him. That's fucking weird. Like that's weird. That's some Woody Allen shit. If you were to ever make a movie about some small town in Minnesota, come talk to me. I'll give you some fucking material. Like there is, I believe a lot of families have something strange in their history that maybe they don't know about, but it's there. And Woody Allen, it's like he's in it. He's like, I'm not talking about weird stuff. I'm gonna do the weird stuff. It's very bizarre.
That's an odd story.
Yeah, they're fucked. They're fucked. Yeah, they're fucked.
I don't necessarily like the influence that Woody Allen has had on a generation of writers, because it's almost like writers seem to think Woody Allen like has this monopoly on New York. It's like if you're going to set a rom-com in New York, someone's going to bring up Woody Allen. And I don't like that. It's like New York existed for a long time before that googly-eyed asshole got involved.
Yes.
And it's just frustrating. And just, making a movie where he's like 42 sleeping with a 17-year-old and everyone's just like, well, can we meet her? Like, are we going to have drinks? And it's like, dude, if one of my friends came to me and said like, yeah, I'm dating this high school girl, I'd be like, get the fuck out of here. What are you doing? You fucking sick bastard.
And we're in our late 20s. Yeah. It's like,
yeah,
like this guy's a full ass 42-year-old. Yeah.
18 and older, or get the fuck away from me. Those are the rules.
And even then, like if a 42-year-old is like, yeah, I just picked up this chick who like was she's a freshman in college, I'd be like, that's a little weird too.
And then the movie acts like, so he's also, I'm gonna go spoil this fucker because I don't care.
No, spoil away. Yeah, I don't care. Who cares? If you haven't seen Manhattan, whatever, don't see it.
Yeah. He hooks up with Diane Keaton, who's his age, and they have a good rapport. And he breaks things off with the 17-year-old because he's like, you need to go have life experiences without me. I'm not the answer. And I'm like, oh, okay, so he's actually doing the right thing here. And I'm like, maybe this will get better. No. Diane Keaton leaves him for the guy she was hooking up with before, which was his best friend. And Woody Allen realizes, oh, the woman I truly love, the one I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, is that 17-year-old. So he goes and finds her again and is like, hey, I'm sorry I broke things off with you. You are the one I love. And I'm like, are we really doing the final act, like profess your love scene with the child? Is he really doing this? And yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So yeah, occasionally, he'll step outside his wheelhouse, do like a Blue Jasmine or Midnight in Paris, which in Purple Rose, which are pretty decent movies. But most of the time, it's older fucking creep lusting after younger woman and using like, New York play quotes to try to get her into bed. And I've had enough.
Yeah, I'm also good on it. Don't expect us to ever do a Woody Allen, top 5. That ain't happening. We're just not the kind of fans. So they're out there. Those people are out there. It's just not us.
I felt very freeing. I'm glad I got to do
that. Yeah, and justice for all. Or Breaking Away.
Yeah, which was really good. I really was surprised by Breaking Away. That was one of the best coming of age films I've ever seen. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I don't mind that getting the win. I do think the other 4 movies, like they have good stuff written. There's just wild, great movie stuff and all that jazz. And Justice for All, like you said, is a great courtroom drama where you got like just nitty gritty, solid screenplay. And the China Syndrome has that kind of technical jargon that's like, man, how did they write this? Just good stuff. So it's a good category. Let's see. Next up, I believe we have actress in a leading role. Here we go. I love this group. Well, you've seen 5 of these, and I've seen 2. So why don't you take this one away and just kind of talk?
Okay. The winner here was Sally Field in Norma Ray. Amazing film, amazing performance. That's one of the best films we've discovered from doing this. Then we had Jill Clayburgh for Starting Over, Jane Fonda for The China Syndrome, Marsha Mason for Chapter 2, and Bette Midler for The Rose.
All right.
I watched all of these, and yeah, this is fun. I enjoy doing like this prep work because I get to watch movies I've never heard of or never would have considered, and some of these were great. So let's start with Jill Clayburgh, Starting Over.
Okay.
Starting Over is a rom-com starring Burt Reynolds, Jill Clayburgh, and Candice Bergen. Burt Reynolds is this guy who's trying to make things work with his wife, Candice Bergen, who is leaving him because she wants to be a singer-songwriter despite the fact that she can't fucking sing. And she cheated on him, and he's like, I'm out. And he runs into Jill Clayburgh, who's this kindergarten teacher who's really sweet, but also very kind of neurotic, and realizes that he's still hung up on his wife. And it's a love triangle movie where he ping pongs between Clayburgh and Bergen, and then ultimately ends up with Clayburgh. So not a lot of substance there. It's pretty much just, I'm like the first person to bring that up on Letterboxd in like 20 years.
Yeah, since Letterboxd was invented. Yeah.
Certain movies you're like, really? It's just me? Okay. But yeah, she was good, but Oscar worthy, I don't think this should be here. It's not an Oscar movie. It's a placeholder.
Interesting.
Yeah. Jane Fonda, fantastic in The China Syndrome, as we've already established. Marsha Mason, Chapter 2. This is the one that surprised me the most. This is free to stream on Tubi, and every time I brought this up to somebody, they're like, Chapter 2 of what? So I stopped talking about it. And this stars James Caan and Marsha Mason. And
nice.
It was written by Neil Simon about how he fell in love with his wife, who was Marsha Mason. So she's playing herself in a way, which is kind of neat. They would get divorced in 1983, so it didn't work out. I wonder, Neil Simon's Chapter 3, I wonder if it was better. So Caan is a recently widowed writer who is still very much in love with his wife who died. And he accidentally calls Marsha Mason after his brother wrote her number down on a paper, like, hey, you should, this chick's really nice. You should go out with her. And he's like, I'm not ready. But he calls her by accident, and they have a phone conversation that is very charming. They're both very witty and on the same, like, he points out, we speak in the same rhythm, which I thought was a neat line. It's like, that'd be fun. That'd be nice to find.
Yeah, it'd also be cool to hear that from James.
Yeah. And he's playing such a vulnerable character. It's so different than anything else he's done. It's not Sonny Corleone. It's not Walter Hobbs. It's a broken, sad man in mourning trying to find love again. So I was very impressed with James Caan. And Marsha Mason has a fantastic speech at the end, because they get married on a whim, and he realizes, I'm betraying the memory of my dead wife. What have I done? And starts being very cold towards Marsha Mason. And she's like, you deserve to be happy. I deserve to be happy. Why are we not happy? Like, we can do this together. We need to find a way to work through this. And her speech was inspiring. So I do think she deserves to be here. I liked this movie more than I thought I would, and I recommend this.
Okay. I'm always interested in watching James Caan, whether it be, Thief or Elf, it doesn't really matter. He kind of just has me by the heart. So I'll definitely keep my eye out for that. It's on Tubi, like you said. So maybe one day I'll give that a whirl. What about The Rose?
The Rose was the hardest film to find here. This film has been pretty much erased from society. You can buy the Criterion DVD on Amazon for like $15 to $30, or you can do what I did, and that is watch a very blurry version of it on Vimeo, which is a great source of free user uploaded films that we will be using in the future, or at least I will. The Rose. This was supposed to be a Janis Joplin biopic, but Bette Midler felt it was too soon. So she and the film's producers and writer and director retooled it into a more generic tale of a rock star and her fall from grace. And Bette Midler was fucking incredible in this.
Beautiful.
She's basically playing Janis Joplin, and like even her voice, like her singing voice, is like transformed into a variant of Joplin's very bluesy, scratchy tones, and I love that. It's a very tragic story. I won't spoil this one because I do think you'll really like this.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought she was great. I'm glad I got to watch that. I told myself I wasn't going to do all this work if I couldn't get to The Rose, because I don't want to do like all but one. So once I found that, it was full steam ahead.
Love it.
No. But having said that, I still give this to Sally Field by a mile.
Wow. Okay. So even with all that work.
Yeah. It was great. It was good. It was rewarding. I don't regret any of it, but no one's taken this away from Norma Ray.
Yeah. That was, oh man, that's a good movie. She's a really, really great performance from Sally. One of her two wins. And yeah, man, she just lights out in that. I remember thinking the same thing, where I was like, I can't imagine anybody taking this away, So I believe you. I wholeheartedly believe you. She's just brilliant in that. Her scene when Sally Field, when she's fucking like talking to her husband, and she's like throwing the dishes around, and like, because he's basically like, you're not around anymore to make dinner, what the fuck, and she does that thing that like every great actress can do, where she like channels all of this energy that's probably happened in her own real life. Sally Field's so good at that. She's so good at kind of stepping up for women in general. It's just like, God, it's so inspiring, so cool. She's one of those ladies that connects generations. So love her, love that performance. Jane Fonda is great, but it sounds like I got a couple movies to see here. I'll probably skip Starting Over. Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever watch that, unless I'm just itching for Burt Reynolds. But the other two sound interesting. I love James Caan. Chapter 2 sounds like an interesting movie, and I prefer movies to be like fictional characters, like when it comes to doing music or whatever. Like I think the decision for like Tar, I think it was genius to make it a fictional character rather than try to, because then you got the whole biopic thing going on.
Yeah.
Then you're like, we have to stay true, otherwise, we're not being honest. And I'd rather you just do made up shit.
They have that, but then they also go ahead and do made up shit anyway. So it's like, nobody wins.
Yeah, that's like fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. But when you can just do a story like Tar or The Rose and make up your own reasons of why somebody falls from grace and their mistakes, and a lot more creative license, and you can surprise people. So yeah, certain times I do like biopics, but I also like just stories.
Yeah, there's a reason we like Whiplash so much.
Yeah. Yes.
Lots of freedom there. All right, last category. This is now I've seen all these. You've seen all these. This is gonna be fun. This is five dudes that just fucking rock. This is a Hall of Fame kind of category here. Best actor in a lead role. Dustin Hoffman took the win for Kramer vs. Kramer. He beat Jack Lemmon for The China Syndrome, Al Pacino for And Justice for All, Roy Scheider for All That Jazz, and Peter Sellers for Being There. Man, talk about a group of dudes who can just knock it out of the park whenever they please. I kind of would keep this in Dustin Hoffman's camp, this statue, but damn, that's competition. Everyone has a word here. You got Peter Sellers doing what very few actors can do, very few, in Being There. You got Roy Scheider doing what very few actors can do in All That Jazz. You got Al Pacino being Al Pacino, total badass, but also a nice guy, a cool guy, playing against type, but also still has the thing where he's like, I can scream. And you got Jack Lemmon doing what Jack Lemmon does, and you got Hoffman doing what Hoffman does. It's just like it's an all-star group here. It's great.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Being There was my first time watch here, and it was not what I expected. I was not expecting everyone in this movie to be a fucking idiot.
Yeah, so good.
I love that. I love Peter Sellers was fantastic. The idea of just a simple kind of slow gardener and his nonsense being mistaken for wisdom by people with money is hilarious. And I love the idea of like the social contract kicking in and you just not wanting to be the person who thinks he's an idiot because then you look like an idiot. So nobody wants to be the person who doesn't get the joke. So they're all like, oh, wow, he's brilliant. And then it just escalates from there. And at the end of it, they're like, we got to make this guy the president. I'm just like, are you kidding me? And it was, I was charmed. It was a quirky, creative, funny, weird movie. So definitely, check out Being There, y'all, if you can. I think where did I watch that? Paramount Plus, maybe one of them. I don't remember.
I watched it when we did Coming Home, the Hal Ashby film from a year prior, and I was like, oh, I like Five Easy Pieces. I like Coming Home. Let me give Being There a whirl. And yeah, man, I was also just kind of blown away by how wacky but feel good it was at the same time. It's the kind of the definition of a dramedy. Yeah. You got like really good dramatic scenes, and that most of it is playing for laughs, and it is funny. Great performances across the board. And Peter Sellers, man, this is one of the more unique Oscar-nominated roles I've seen in a while. So I was really glad you got to check this out. It's also being referenced in the newest film by Sam Mendes, Empire of Light. And that scene made me cry, partly because I knew what Being There was about, I knew like what it meant for that era, like the late 70s, early 80s. And when Olivia Colman's character sees the movie, it's the first movie she's ever seen all the way through in the theater. I was like, this is cool. This is a cool moment, It helps when you've seen the product, you know what I mean? Yes. So I thought that was really neat that she says any film, and he chooses Being There. Like, it's such a cool choice. I think Peter Sellers might be my second place vote just because like no one else can do this. The character of Chance is like, Peter Sellers does stuff that's just so fucking out there. Like, Al Pacino couldn't do that. Like, I don't know if Peter Sellers could do obviously what Al Pacino does, but Sellers is such a unique skill set. I really respect him. The more movies I see with him in it, and you're like, man, this guy's just damn good. So I don't know. I kind of think Hoffman is just doing something here that's really unique, really special. I'll always see it as the thing that defines his career. So I like to give him the win, but again, Sellers has an argument. Pacino's just fucking amazing in that movie. You pointed out how great the dialogue is in that movie, and Scheider and Lemon. So this is a tough group. This is guys that we are very familiar with. We both like a lot. It makes it hard.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to stick with Dustin Hoffman. I just love the character of Ted Kramer. I love the walls he's forced to be backed up against and how he overcomes them, and for the betterment of his child. And I remember doing that episode, and we both responded heavily to elements of Kramer versus Kramer that hit home. And Dustin Hoffman's a big part of why that hit home. He plays it so fucking raw and real. You believe that he's, a father who doesn't really want to be a father, but has to be, and then grows to love being a father. And I love that. I don't want to take anything away from Kramer versus Kramer. That movie stuck with me.
Yeah, movie fucking rocks. Marriage Story before a Marriage Story, right? It's just that's a 10 out of 10 kind of movie for me. I just adore it. My favorite scene from Hoffman in Kramer vs. Kramer is when he realizes how hard it is to do the morning routine. He's trying to make coffee, he's trying to make eggs, he's trying to do all these different things, pour the kid some orange juice, and he's like, all this at the same time is kind of hard. My wife was pretty good at this, women make it look so goddamn easy when they, there's times where my wife will be gone in the morning and I'm like trying to take care of Willow, right? And I'm like, man, she makes it look so easy. I suck at this. This is fucking hard, making her breakfast and knowing the right thing to do, right thing to say. And then out of nowhere, she's like, I have to potty. I'm like, all right. It feels like a million things are happening at once. And I'm not fucking Neo, My wife is Morpheus and Neo at the same time. She's fucking Trinity. She's fucking, everything's in slow motion. She's able to just hear our daughter every little thing she needs and wants. And I'm like, man, skill that I'm still trying to obtain. But I'm with you. My favorite thing about Ted, my favorite thing about the performance is the growth into the role of being a parent. It's so beautiful. Kind of dropping his professional life and realizing like, fuck you guys. Like, fuck you guys. You've had me by the ball since I got hired here. This is more important. This child is more important. If only more parents realize that, they should watch Kramer vs. Kramer. Learn a thing or two.
There's so few films about single dads doing the right thing. And I love that movie. Meryl Streep is the bad guy. She abandons them and then shows up, after they've gotten comfortable with one another and is like, I want back in. And I'm with Ted. It's like, you can't do that. You can't just show up again and be like, I want to be mom again. It's like, no, you lost that right. And yeah, it's hard to, but I get it. It's like the kid needs two parents. Like, I have so many conflicted thoughts about that shit.
That's why it's so good, right? Talk about an intense scene when Hoffman throws the fucking glass against the wall and actually did that, on set live, and Meryl Streep had no idea, and she got fucking glass up in her hair, it cut her and shit, and she was like, "What the hell was that?" And he's like, "Fucking acting, baby." Hoffman was a complete dickhead, on set most of the time during his prime and fucking doing crazy stuff. So I'm not gonna praise him for that. But god damn, what a performance, He's absolutely lights out. So yeah, this is a great group. I'll always remember 1979 for having some great movies nominated. Do you think the China Syndrome should have been up for anything else, or you think it's kind of like, it's worth 4 and that's about it?
I think it's good where it is.
Yeah, me too.
I do want to point out real quick 2 prophetic things that happened while I was doing the prep.
Okay.
One, the last 2 movies I did for the prep while we're doing an overhaul of the podcast were called Starting Over in Chapter 2, which is fucking bananas.
Yeah, wild.
And then the other thing happened while I was watching Chapter 2. They go to a symphony, and it's they're playing a Beethoven piece. And the Beethoven piece they're playing is the original placeholder music I picked for Oscar Sunday when we first started this.
Whoa.
That freaked me the fuck out.
Yeah. They're watching. Are they telling us no, don't do it? Or are they saying, yeah, this is fine?
Yeah, it was chapter 2. It's like, you know what? We had such a great time the first time. And James Caan has this moment of like, I told myself, what's the worst that could happen if I allow myself to be happy again? And the worst that could happen is I'm happy. And I was like, yeah, James, thank you.
Yeah. I needed that, Mr. Caan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool, man. Yeah. This is it. This is we're wrapping up here the last Oscar Sunday. I want to see, on Wednesday we have our last final, proper filmgasm, and I want to say we're gonna have multiple people on that episode, so that'll be cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be myself, Caleb, and Colton tackling Freddy versus Jason for our 4-year anniversary. Seems like the perfect place.
What the fuck?
I know, right? It all worked out so weirdly perfectly. And we're just going to send off Filmgasm proper. And, I'll explain some more facets of what we're going to be doing with the next phase. And yeah, this is exciting. Change is good. Growth is good. And, we're good at this now. We know what we're doing. So it's time to, shake things up.
Yeah, that's the main thing is the confidence we have now compared to 3-4 years ago. It's a completely different. We're different people when it comes to talking about movies, and we feel like this is going to be not easier on us and not less of a challenge. If anything, more of a challenge, because we're going to be doing things on the fly. We're going to be doing things week to week. It just will be less, like Connor said at the top of the show, it'll be less of kind of doing those episodes just because we feel like we have to. We've held strong to this schedule. We've had like such discipline about releasing, Oscar Sunday on Sunday and Filmgasm on Wednesday and Beyond the Bat on Friday. We've stayed through that for so long that it's like, okay, we know we're gonna release content. Let's get out on the playground a little bit more and have some fun rather than having it so kind of planned out for all of us. So let's get a little more creative. And this is going to force us. This is going to force our hand, and I can't wait, man. It's going to be so much fun. So I anticipate the first thing you and I will do under kind of our new chapter 2 will be something Oscar related. We'll do like a fun episode going into the weekend. We'll do the recap after the Oscars, and then from there, we're just gonna start fucking rolling and doing shit. So I can't wait. We already have stuff planned for, like John Wick 4 and Scream 6, these new movies that are going to come out. We're going to have fun episodes planned around those. I can't wait, man. It's going to be great. It's going to be a jack of all trades here on Filmgasm. So that's what, and we're still under the same feed. You don't have to, you're not going to have to look anywhere else for these episodes. We're under this Filmgasm Productions feed. It's just moving forward. It's going to be called Filmgasm. That's what it's called. That's going to be, every podcast is going to be a Filmgasm podcast. There is no separate shows. So I can't wait, man. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's exactly, we needed to do all of that so we could do this. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I don't think any of this was a waste of time. None of it. Even when we were like, oh, man, we got to do She Done Him Wrong. Fuck. It forces you to learn and grow and be better at talking about things that you don't even want to talk about sometimes. Just get a little bit uncomfortable. Doing the foreign movies that we've done has pushed us to great heights, doing Woman in the Dunes, Rashomon and Ran, like Bicycle Thieves, like that stuff mattered. It meant something to you and I growing as movie people. And we're just going to, I feel like we've graduated. We're going to fucking run with it. It's our time now.
Yep. This has been a blast, and I don't regret a single episode.
Yeah, straight up, man. So yeah, be on the lookout for more stuff, new stuff. Be on the lookout for the last official Filmgasm on Wednesday. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Check out the site. Check out our Letterboxd. Keep watching movies, and we'll see y'all on Wednesday.